Well, it's Andrew Cross. Welcome to the Pixel Financial Benchmarking Update webinar, which I inadvertently forgot to record when I did it live on Wednesday this week. So what we're going to do today is we are going to walk through a demonstration of some of the recent updates that we've made. I'm also going to talk about some of the further improvements in the pipeline, and then we're also going to talk about some of the new services which we have to offer. Okay, so firstly, we'll look at we'll do a demonstration of the most recent updates. So we're going to look at the local outcomes framework, which has recently been published, and we've incorporated into some of our reports. I'm also going to look at what we call LA performance on a page, which provides a really high-level summary by local authority of comparisons of RO-related spend against other authorities and CQC, Ofsted and other inspection-related data, so we're getting a rounded view at a high level of cost and quality. We're going to look at some of the local outcomes framework, which we've data which we've also incorporated into some of the other adults, children's and highways finance-related reports. We're going to also look at council tax by billing area comparisons, which we've got a new report, and an exceptional financial support tracker. So there's two new additions to the landing page. So on here we have the local outcomes framework and the LA performance. So we're going to look at the local outcomes framework first. We'll use Bradford as the example. Okay, so on here with the pop-out, we've got all the usual filtering mechanisms by class, region, comparison group. And then we also have sections, which are just the different elements of the metrics for the local outcomes framework. So you can things like housing supply, adult social care, neighbourhoods, transport, and so on. Okay, so for Bradford, we're going to compare against Met Councils. Okay, so what we have on here is all the different metrics which form part of the local outcome framework. Down the left-hand side, we have the most recent values from the data which is published. We have on here the rank of where that means that Bradford is in comparison to the cohort of metropolitan councils. So in this example, we're ranking 16 out of 36. On here, it tells you whether a high value is good or a low value is good. And it also then places that into a quartile. It also outlines here on the period. So if, for example, we're wanting to look at new dwellings, I could see that I've had that value of percentage new dwellings, and that was the rank. Once I've clicked on there, on the right-hand side, what appears is a league table. So it looks like Manchester has got a higher percentage of new dwellings, and there are others that have a lower value. Okay. So on here, if I want to know further about it, I can click on here for details. And what that does is it takes you to another page, which has basically got the same type of info, but it's just shown graphically. So you might be useful if you're wanting to incorporate that into a report by taking a snip of it and sticking it to your report. And on here, so that's showing you a bar chart of how it sits in comparison to others. And then on here, if we click onto there, it'll also give us a timeline. So that's useful. So you can say, where do we sit now? Are we going in the right direction or not? Okay, now that kind of thinking applies to all of these different metrics. So I have it here for best start in life, every child achieving, so mostly education related things. We have some children's social care metrics, health and well-being, which is mostly public health related metrics, adult social care quality, adult social care activity, neighbourhoods, and transport infrastructure. and so on. Okay, so on here, if you want to, you can also limit by the different sections. So if we were just interested in children's social care, I click on there, and that will give me all of the children's social care related metrics. And again, I can so have things like the percentage of children looked after in a foster placement, or the percentage of children with a child protection plan that are ending at key stage 2, meeting the expected standard. So there we go. Okay, so that's the local outcomes framework, and that is the sort of main route into it. But as we'll see later, we've also incorporated that into some of the finance reports for adults and children's and highways, and we've sat that alongside some of the cost metrics, so like from the RO cost per head analysis. So if we look at that now, you've got adult social care and CQC inspections. So I'm going to click on there. And this report isn't new. But it opens on Care Quality Commission categories. Yours would automatically highlight your council, but I'm going to type in Bradford, and yeah, what I can see from there is Bradford has recently had an inspection and it scored 73 out of 100, rating it as good, and it is currently 18th highest score out of there we go, 129 authorities that have been rated so far, with data up to the 6th of June. And again, I can filter on there and I can say, okay, well, let's compare against class. So the 4th highest of all METs that have been inspected so far. Okay, so that report's not new, but what the one which is the Care Quality Commission Local Outcomes Framework and RO. So on here, we have Bradford compared to other Met councils, and so I can look in the middle and I can see, okay, well, this is the amount which has been spent by Bradford in 24-25, 209 million. That £497 is the cost per head, and we can see that because we also have the population numbers on there. If we take the average of the cohort, we can see that's £567. So we can see that, and we can see that Bradford is ranking 32nd lowest out of the 35 that are in the cohort. Okay, then on the right-hand side, we have how that £497 cost per head is split down across the different subcategories of RO and the ranking there. So I can look on here and I can get a reasonable comfort that the spend per head is relatively low in Bradford in comparison to most others. Then I can say, okay, well, what about the quality? What's the quality like? Well, the recent Ofsted inspection shows that it's good. So far I'm seeing relatively low cost and relatively good quality. And then that's further strengthened by, if I look at the local outcomes framework metrics, I can see things like, okay, well, the quality scores associated with adjusted social care quality of life were ranking second highest, which is in the top quartile. I can say overall satisfaction levels of carers, so that's looking at that's in the 3rd quartile, so not as high as some other authorities. And then I can see things that at the bottom, like here, the permanent admissions to care homes for 65 plus. So I can see that is relatively low, and the permanent care home admissions for younger adults, so 18 to 64, that's also low. And having low ones of these would typically chime with having a relatively low cost per head. So anyway, the point of this report is to be able to say, okay, well, are we high cost, low cost? Well, I can see we're low cost. Have we got decent inspections? Yes. Is that then supported by the metrics in the local outcome frameworks? Yeah, it broadly is. But I can also identify that there's a couple of areas where we're in the lower quartile, which might require some remedy. Okay, so that same kind of thinking has been applied in the children's social care one, and also highways. So we'll have a quick look at that. So this highways report, again, it would default to your council. Okay, so on here I can see these are the different Met councils, and that is the Department for Transport local road maintenance rating. So I see amber, overall rating of amber, condition scorecard of amber, spend scorecard of green, and wider best practice scorecard of green. Now if I go on to this next report, which has got the DFT local outcomes framework and RO, and on here we will look at, again, we'll compare against Met councils. So I can see on here, this is the cost per head rank. So that's looking like we're spending £10 million on highways and transport at a cost of £18.14 per head of population, and that's the 29th lowest. Then I can see how that's made up with the different subcategories. I can see the overall road maintenance ratings here, and I can also see the transport and local infrastructure related local outcomes frameworks metrics here. So I can see from that, okay, well, seem to be in the lower quartiles for roads that are requiring improvement. So, and yeah, in the bottom quartile associated with killed and seriously injured casualties. Okay, so that's highways and transport. As mentioned, we have incorporated the local outcomes framework into the children's social care ones as well. So you can see the spend, Ofsted inspection, and local outcomes framework metrics as it relates to children's social care. We will be incorporating it into the waste management one shortly. And we're also going to produce reports that have got other similar kinds of things for public health, but also using that with the local outcomes metrics. And we'll also produce one which has housing and housing related metrics also. Okay, so that's the local outcomes framework. Then the next update we'll look at is the LA performance. So if I click into there, okay, so again, we're going to look at Bradford, and then we're going to look at metropolitan districts. So what we have on here is the RO, the revenue outturn values that run up to something called the current net cost of service. It's got £1.1 billion of expenditure there. Again, we've used this information before in some of the RO data, but this is like a summarized version. But we also have the population cohorts, one divided by the other gives the cost per head. In here, we also have the cohort average cost per head. So this is the Met Council average cost per head. And if you take one away from the other and multiply it by the population, then that'll give you a cost, an overall potential cost or saving if you were at the average of the cohort. So on there, I can see that in totality, that's Bradford's RO value, and it's spending £200 million less per year, pro rata to size than others in the Met Council cohort. But then I look at that and I say, okay, well, those are the RO values, those are the RO categories, but there are some service areas in here, like education services, which is funded by the DSG, and housing benefits, which are paid for out of housing benefits grants, and public health grant, where basically you spend up to the value of the grant allocation. Anyway, so I probably wouldn't find those overly useful when it comes to benchmarking comparisons. Also, things like education services, it could depend on how many schools have academized. So I might say, okay, those ones aren't very useful for comparison purposes. So for that reason, we have put on an exclude grant funded filter. Once I've clicked on there, then it will exclude those ones. So now what I'm left with is the ones which are more comparable: children's social care, adult social care, and others. Now, if for any reason you have some further RO categories which you want to get rid of because they're not used for comparison purposes, in the webinar the other day we had an example of some fire services for Shire counties which some have and others don't. But you can go on to here, you can go on to the RO service type, you can select all, and then you can untick whichever ones you want to take out of the comparison. Okay, so having done that, I'm looking at RA values now, and I'm able to see, okay, well, some services are more cost, say children's social care in Bradford is at the higher cost end of the spectrum, and if it was spending at the average of other Met councils pro rata to its size, it would be spending £47 million a year less than it currently is. So I can say, okay, well, look, it's high. It's looking at high spend there relatively. I can also see on here that the cost per head rank in the most recent final year is in 24-25 was 6. But if I looked the year before, it was 2. So it seems to be that's going in the better direction. But still high relative to others. Where I can see that others like adult social care is low cost. Now on the right hand side, I can say, okay, well, that's children's, so it's high cost, and but it also had a recent inspection which said it requires improvement. Where adult social care, as we saw before, it seems to be low cost and had a good inspection. And we also have some other services like waste services. So that's looking like it's relatively low cost, but we have some performance issues there in terms of recycling rates. So that might be something which needs to be remedied. Homelessness, housing services. So a lot of the cost associated with housing services goes on trying to reduce homelessness. And this data derives from the local outcomes framework. It's one of the metrics there about the percent of duties owed where prevented or relieved. Okay, so the idea behind this report again is to provide a summary. And on here, another feature is that we have a league table here. So let's say that I can conclude that Bradford overall is spending slightly less than the average pro rata size. I can click onto here and click the league table. And that'll have the golden thread that'll take us to that cost savings. But if we're spending slightly less in Bradford on that cohort of services, then there'll be others which are spending more. So I can see, so these areas are spending more. If I take that overall cost saving and I divide it by the population of Bradford, that gives us a cost per head saving or rank, and that can then be put into a ranking to provide a bit of an indication about the scope for either spending more or spending less. Okay. Now that kind of thing can be done for any service area. So before we were looking at that cohort of services, but if I wanted to go onto adult social care, for example, I would click onto here. I would go onto there and select. I'll just go and find adult social care. So that'll just limit this to adult social care, and I can click into there for the table associated with adult social care, which we've seen before. Okay, so that's the LA performance. Now, the last couple of things we're going to look at today are an extra report we've added for council tax. So a page where we have the council tax band D excluding parish pre-cert. So we've had that for quite a long time. One of the things which we've recently added in is one which includes the parish precepts. So as an example, So I'm going to look at Bradford again. I'm going to compare it to Met Councils. And from there, I can see that that is the overall Band D charge for the Bradford district. And that is the 25th lowest out of 36 Met Councils. Then, if I look further on here, so I can see, okay, well, how's that £2,360 made up? Okay, well, it's made up of the £1,965 associated with Bradford Council's Band D charge. But then there's also charges for police and fire and local preceptors as well. Anyway, so I think we were requested to make this report because I think that some authorities have got fire services included within their Band Ds, where other alike authorities would have Band D fire charges associated with fire authorities. Okay, then the last one we're going to look at today is so within core spending power. So in this core spending power report, which we have produced previously, we have the things like the core spending power time series, core spending power per head comparisons, core spending power per head in comparison to index of multiple deprivation and over time. Also the growth in core spending power over the settlement period. One of the new ones we've added in is an exceptional financial support tracker. So this is the value of national exceptional financial support going back a number of years, split down by authority, and then this one is an exceptional financial support by local authority. So again, that's just scaled. Okay, so those are all the recent updates. Now, yeah, we have some further improvements in the pipeline. So as I mentioned, we will be adding on a housing and homelessness report, which incorporates both housing, RO related finance data, which would, in the usual way, spend per head, time series, how does it compare? Are you spending more? Are you spending less? But also incorporate the local outcomes framework. So, do you have high levels of prevention of homelessness? What are the sleeping levels like? Are they increasing, decreasing? We'll also be adding in the public health report, which has got the RO related public health finance data with the local outcomes framework performance metrics. We're working on a home to school transport report, which again will enable a comparison of cost and usage of home to school transport. We also will shortly be adding in children's placement numbers by type and time series. So that will provide things like these are the number of kids have looked after children who were in residential care placements this year, last year, the year before. And these are the number of kids who were in foster care placements, special guardianship orders, that kind of thing. And what's nice about that is it will match quite nicely with the Section 251 placement costs. So then that'll enable a bit of a comparison of unit costs, i.e. the placement costs per week, and compare that across local authorities. We also have some user interface improvements which we're working on. The RA 26-27 data is going to get published shortly, so that's all the budget related data for 26-27. So we'll incorporate that and let you know about it when it's there. And yeah, we'll be adding on the Teams recordings to the update log. Okay. So last thing I want to tell you about is so in addition to the benchmarking service, we also are going to offer a service should anyone want to contact us about it, about how we can use the sort of Power BI skills and modelling skills to help local authorities with their own sort of in-house bespoke models and data reports. So I've got a lot of experience of this, but the kind of things which which local authorities might want help with are things like, you can use Power BI as the reporting tool to sit on top of your ledger to help improve your financial reporting. So, you can use it for revenue monitoring, capital monitoring, reserves, savings, budget changes. And we can put those into nice looking reports which can be used by your budget holders and senior management and so on. Now, one of the nice things about Power BI is that you can get data from all the different data sources. So you can use it to say, okay, well, you have your finance data, which you've sucked in from your ledger, but you can also suck in the data from things like your adult social care system, your HR system, waste-related systems, whatever it might be. So you can suck all that information in and put it together in much the same way as we've done for the benchmarking data, but it can be like it's bespoke to your local authority. Other uses which we've used Power BI for are to create things like forecasting models. So again, if you've got adults finance-related information where you're paying providers and that's coming out of your ledger, but you might also have adult social care systems that have got things like payments to providers, the numbers of users, all that kind of thing. Then again, we can you can suck that information together and turn it into an easy to use, repeatable model which generates forecasts, which you can then incorporate into your sort of your budget monitoring and other uses. So there's all sorts of different applications for it. Salary monitoring, agency monitoring, debt management. We've also used it to automate the speeding up of the automate government returns. So again, that can save time and effort. And once you've got things set up, or you know how to set these things up, then you can make things very efficient in terms of publication, and that can speed up and reduce the amount of Excel type work that you or your colleagues might have to do. Lastly, if anyone requires any sort of is looking for Power BI related training or advice for local authorities, then again, that's something which we can provide. So if you'd like any further information about that, then please contact me on with my address here. And other than that, that's it for us today. Okay, so that's it, and we'll catch you next time.